Thank you so much for coming. I promise this is the last actual speech. The goal is to kind of recap the past 2 days. We started France's AI about 2 years ago, and the goal was basically to be able to support the ecosystem and to ensure that the French ecosystem, which is one that's actually really wonderful and has a lot of things happening for it, could actually be also like seen and perceived as a huge AI ecosystem from abroad. I personally live in New York, and when you speak to American people, most of them actually don't consider France as like one of the big ecosystem. So that's how we basically started it. The first thing we did is we tried to map the whole ecosystem to try to better understand what was happening currently in France. And so the first thing that makes France a huge ecosystem is obviously our educational system. If you think about it, we have one of the best universities, one of the best engineering schools when it comes to math. And math, obviously, is one of the key elements when it comes to like AI. But the second thing is we've had a huge effort from meetups to basically be able to diffuse the technology and to ensure that a lot of people who are passionate about AI could actually also learn how to use AI. And that was like a critical element to that. The second aspect is that we obviously have a huge research network with a ton of labs that are actually like AI-focused labs. The issue is that network, the issue is that ecosystem is from abroad, whether it's from the US or whether it's from China, London, or Canada. It's a very hard ecosystem when it comes to labs to be able to understand. A lot of them are like attached to like CNRS, some of them INRIA, some of them have 3 establishments that it report to. And so from abroad, it's really, really hard for people to understand that we have that. Because compared to like the US, most of those labs are basically attached to a big university like Stanford or MIT. And we don't really have that, and that's one of the big issues. And that's also why we wanted to be able to document what those like research labs were. The third thing is we actually have a huge ecosystem when it comes to startups. Those are more applied startups where they leverage AI as an infrastructure and then basically try to rethink a bunch of industries. And so when we started analyzing, we really got surprised that there were more than 240 startups that basically are leveraging AI in different applications. And more than that, we actually have already had huge exits. And when you think about France, a lot of people are thinking, well, we don't really have a lot of very big fundraisings. We don't really have a lot of huge exits. But if you think about it, the latest one is Snapchat that acquired Zenly, that had a very deep layer of AI when it came to localizing people, and they acquired it for between 250 and 350 million, which is a very big acquisition when it comes to France. Another one is that one of the finalists from last year in Ireland got acquired by Spotify because of their recommendation engine. Obviously, Moodstocks was acquired by Google, and a lot of those huge companies actually did that. And if you look at fundraisings, we don't traditionally have companies that have raised as much money. But we've got a ton of companies here that have raised more than $15 million to be able to deploy that technology. Now, unlike what happened over the past 5 years in other ecosystems, most of those startups are basically focused on one industry. They're not actually trying to develop a horizontal layer of AI. They're trying to apply AI to a certain industry. And finally, and that's what most American people are surprised by, if you look at most top American companies, and if you look at who is the person who's heading the AI department at that company, there's a very high chance that person is French. So think about Facebook, Samsung, NVIDIA, Google Europe, Sentient, Apple, Keras, Twitter, Airbnb, and Salesforce. People are either the heads of their AI labs at a worldwide level, or they're basically at a European level, or even they're among the top 5 people when it comes to that. And when you speak about to American people, when you speak to English people, most of them are absolutely shocked of that fact. And we think this is actually a huge opportunity for us, even in France. And the reason why is because it doesn't really matter that they left France. What matters is they are French, which means that they've grown up here, they've gone to our systems, and that's what they're recognized for. And that basically helps France spread and shine across the whole world, and nobody should be afraid that those people are living. We need to set up different things in France to make sure that they don't leave, but we should be happy that they're living, because that means that at Facebook, Google, Twitter, Airbnb, Salesforce, and everything, people know that French people are actually amongst the top ones when it comes to AI. That's why we wanted to start the initiative. And the reason why we wanted to do it is because we think we already have the ecosystem. We don't want to rebuild any ecosystem. We just want to support it and promote it because it already exists. But what we don't know how to do is we're not really good at marketing. we don't really know how to promote France really in the rest of the world. We don't really know how to like, sell ourselves to like American people or other people, and that's what we want to do. So we gave ourselves 4 missions. The first one is to continue dynamically to build that ecosystem, be it for meetups, for startups, for labs, for any type of event that's currently happening in France, in order for us to be able to like show to the rest of the world that window on what's happening in France. Because the reality is that if we don't do that, they won't do it. But if you tell people there's 240 startups in AI in France, trust me, they'll start thinking that we're like one of the major hubs when it comes to AI. The second thing is we're going to do that conference now annually. We started last year, and it was only on 3/4 of a day. This year is on 2 days. Next year, hopefully, it will be still on 2 days, because otherwise I won't have a life anymore. So I'll keep it on 2 days. But we'll try to see and constantly like improve and innovate when it comes to that format. The third thing is, and that's a very unique thing, we're raising money from a lot of sponsors. Some of them are in the room and are just basically told me that they're willing to put more money. And I'm pointing the finger to nobody, but if the person doesn't see me pointing finger at her, maybe like, she's not realizing, oh, I'm sorry, I meant you. Some people are basically still supporting us with partnerships. And those sponsorships, we don't want to keep that money. All we want to do with that money is to redistribute the money to the ecosystem. We want to support projects in the ecosystem that promote the ecosystem, that develop the ecosystem. So last year, we had very little money left because we didn't raise that much money. And what we did with that money is we sponsored Scikit-Learn, which is one of the largest libraries of machine learning in the world, and that actually exists from France. So that's what we did. This year, we invited all the meetups in AI, robotics, and big data. And for all the ones who are not from Paris, we covered all their transportation costs so that we can discuss with them, and we can actually discuss with them what we can do to structure even more what they're doing. Because if France is AI, well, it doesn't mean Paris is AI. It just means France is AI. And there's a lot of things that are happening not in Paris, but in the rest of the region and departments. And the last thing is, we're trying to build bridges with the other AI hubs. Last year, we had a startup competition, and the winner went to Stanford in their incubator. This year, we're building the partnership with NYU, and the winner will go to the incubator at NYU. And we're going to keep doing that. We've invited people who came from Silicon Valley, people who came from Canada, and hopefully next year, we'll invite people who are going to come even from further away to basically be coming here in Paris to see why this ecosystem is really interesting. Obviously, as I was saying, there's a lot of partners. In 2016, 2017, it was very little budget because we don't really need that much budget because we're not trying to like fuel and invest in research. We're just trying to fuel the ecosystem. We've launched the first conference. We had the first startup competition. We did the partnership with Stanford. We had global AI dinner in San Fran with top VCs, top like tech companies to be able to present them the French ecosystem. We launched a website as a resource for people to be able to document their startup, document their labs, their meetups, the event, and we did a sponsorship for Scikit. The thing you have to know is out of the 5 startups from last year, 3 ended up being accepted at Stanford. 1 got acquired by Spotify. 1 received an FDA approval. 1 just announced this morning or yesterday that it raised more than $6 million from like a suite of top VCs. Another one hasn't disclosed yet, but is also doing a major fundraising. So those startups are key also to showcase France in the world. What do we want to do for this year? And keep in mind that like most of this is based on volunteers. If any of you is interested in helping, please contact me, contact Damien. All the things is on the brochure and everything. But what we want to do is to continue to expand that effort. So what we're going to ask the whole community is send projects. If you're working on a project that's aimed to support the ecosystem or to like help the ecosystem, please send a project. We'll look at it. We built a board. The goal for us is to be able to be as inclusive as possible. If you have a meetup and you want to be referenced, email us. If you're a startup and you want to be referenced, email us. The other thing is that we've obviously built a board because the one thing we think is that contrary sometimes to some of the way people are thinking from a top-down standpoint, and by that I mean the government, we think that the best way for us to like shine as an ecosystem is from the bottom up. We think that we can like focus and help each other as an ecosystem to be able to like shine to the rest of the world. And so that's also why the one thing that was very important for us from board standpoint is to have a representation from the different actors in the ecosystem, schools, research, community, incubators, and financing, a representation that's Paris and region, a quarter of the board members are actually not living in Paris, and a representation that's male and female, a quarter of the board is actually like, female. So that's something that's very key to us because we believe that to be able to have and tackle the problem, which is how do we make France truly the driving hub when it comes to AI, we need to have all those perspectives and not look at it just from the research standpoint, just from the startup standpoint, but from all angles. Thanks a lot to our sponsors, or the future ones. No, I'm kidding. A special thanks to France Digital that actually has been tremendous with us and be able to help us in terms of the administration of this entire thing. And a huge thanks to a lot of people who between last year and this year have actually made this possible. Shrinkcan with Jason McDonald, who's actually been amazing in terms of moderating and everything like that. Cablé, who helped with some PR. Les Pépitech, who built for free the website. Zogma, who helped for free to do the event from last year. The sponsors from last year, whose money helped funnel and finance what happened this year. And La French Tech, who's actually also helping us. So now I'm welcoming, because the no more slides, I'm welcoming the people to announce the prize and the winner. And so I'm going to welcome Steve Kuyan, who's the director of the NYU Future Labs, and Damien Gromier, who's the president of France ISAI.
Thank you, Paul. We are so excited because we have a great announcements to do.
Before we announce, do you mind if I say thank you to the Francis AI group and to Paul, who ran through that presentation, and to Damien and everyone for organizing this, because no one said thank you to you guys. So thank you. Can we have a round of applause for the Francis AI team?
Thank you to all of you.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. I was super excited to be part of the startup competition. Just some very quick feedback. I think a lot of folks have a misconception about AI. So when we were thinking about the company to award the prize to, we had to keep in mind that AI is a technology. It's not an industry. So when companies are pitching, you have to consider how AI is being used. So with that said, we actually decided to give two different prizes. So we thought there was two really good teams that were in the competition today. The runner-up is Carbon Bee.
Please welcome on stage.
Carbon Bee will also get space at the Future Labs, and we'll work on making sure that you guys can enter the US ecosystem with some help from the Future Labs. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
The winner of the competition is going to get $400,000 in Google credits. They're going to get an NVIDIA machine. They're going to get 6 months of office space at the Future Labs in New York City and all the different resources that come with that. That's free legal services, free student support, and then many other resources. So it's a fantastic prize pool. It's a great sort of launching pad for the company to make their way as hopefully match the success of last year's winner. So,
in other words, it's going to be huge, a huge prize for an incredible startup to encourage AI.
And the winner is Cortex.
Cortex.
Well, a huge thanks to Paul and all the Francis AI team for gathering us today. I mean, it's amazing to see how many great people we have in this space, and thanks again for the prize. Looking forward to go to New York City.